Have you ever felt like the universe is isolating you, pulling you away from everything you know, leaving you alone with your thoughts? Maybe you've experienced that disconnection after losing a job or a close relationship. But what if I told you that every moment of solitude is not a punishment, but rather a whisper from your soul, urging you to look within? Today, I invite you on a journey of introspection. My friend, here at Spiritual Awakening, we are going to explore together the hidden language of isolation, decipher the messages that Carl Jung saw as steps toward your true essence, and discover how that solitude can transform into a path of clarity and authenticity. This journey will not only help you understand those silences that sometimes weigh heavily on you, but it will also lead you to a deeper connection with yourself, to a place of peace where your spirit finds its home. Life, in its purest essence, is a path toward your authenticity, a journey that is not always paved with bright lights or constant companionship. Jung called it individuation, a process that is not about fitting into the molds that society imposes on you or meeting the expectations of those around you, but about becoming the truest version of yourself. It's not an easy road, my friend. This path is filled with unexpected turns, moments of solitude that force you to pause, and silences that echo louder than any spoken word. But here lies the secret that Jung left us. That solitude, that disconnection that sometimes feels like an unbearable weight, is not an enemy to be fought. It is a gift from the universe, a necessary pause, a sacred space where you can listen to the voice within, the one that is often drowned out by the noise of the external world. Jung saw individuation as the deepest purpose of human existence, a quest that goes beyond mere survival or superficial success. It is a process of integration, of gathering all the parts of yourself, the ones that shine brightly and the ones that remain hidden in darkness. Because yes, we all carry a shadow within us, a collection of aspects we have rejected, ignored, or buried, whether out of fear, shame, or because they don't fit the image we want to project. These could be desires you never dared to confess, fears you have silenced for years, or even emotions you consider unacceptable, like the anger you secretly hold or the sadness you disguise with a smile. Jung assures us that this shadow is not something evil that we must destroy. It is simply unknown, a part of our psyche that we fear because we do not understand it. But what if, instead of fearing that shadow, you looked it in the eyes? What would you discover if you dared to open the door to those parts of yourself that you have kept in the shadows? Isolation plays a crucial role in this process because it acts as a mirror, forcing you to see yourself without filters. Think of a moment in your life when you felt truly alone. Maybe it was when an important relationship fell apart, leaving a void you didn't know how to fill, or when a dream you were chasing faded away, leaving you in a silence filled with unanswered questions. In those moments, the universe wasn't punishing you. It was inviting you to stop, to look within, to face what you've been carrying in silence. We live surrounded by constant noise, the expectations of others, the opinions that bombard us, the rush of daily life, and that noise pulls us away from ourselves. It makes us wear masks, adopt roles that don't always reflect who we really are. Isolation, on the other hand, offers you a clean space, a blank canvas where you can stop performing and start being. It's like walking into a dark forest. At first, the shadows wrap around you, and your heart races. But little by little, your eyes adjust. You start to see the shapes of the trees, hear the whisper of the wind through the leaves, and what once seemed terrifying transforms into a landscape full of life and meaning. That's how solitude works in our lives. It begins as an emptiness that scares you, a silence that seems to scream, But if you stay with it, if you allow yourself to inhabit it instead of running away, you start to uncover the fears you've avoided, the dreams you've forgotten, the parts of yourself you've left behind. It's an act of courage, the first step toward an authenticity that cannot be compromised. This journey of individuation doesn't follow a straight map or come with clear instructions. It's not a process you complete in a week or a year. It's a continuous path, a dance of self-discovery that evolves with every step you take, with every challenge you face. Isolation isn't a one-time event that happens and disappears. It's a recurring companion that shows up at different moments in your life, bringing new lessons, new signs of something that needs to be seen or healed. It might be an old wound that still aches in secret, a desire you've repressed out of fear of failure, or a truth you're finally ready to accept. And here's the magic. Every time you face that isolation, every time you integrate a part of yourself that you had ignored, you release energy that was once trapped. That energy transforms into vitality that pushes you to live more fully, into creativity that shapes new ideas, into an authenticity that makes you shine from within. Let me share something personal, my friend, because this path is not just theory. I have lived it myself. A few years ago, my world seemed to crumble. Friendships I thought would last forever dissolved like smoke. Carefully made plans unraveled in an instant, and I found myself alone in my small apartment, staring at the walls as if they were my only refuge. At first, I fought that solitude with everything I had. I turned on the TV to fill the silence, scrolled through social media for distractions, tried to convince myself that everything would go back to normal soon. But one day, exhausted from resisting, I sat on the floor with a cup of coffee in my hands and let the silence wrap around me. It wasn't easy. My mind ran in circles, reminding me of failures, questioning my worth. But then, in the middle of that internal chaos, I began to hear something different. I saw how I had been living to please others, how I had buried my own dreams out of fear of not being enough. That isolation, which I had feared so much, became my teacher. It showed me that true freedom doesn't come from external validation, but from accepting myself exactly as I am, without filters or excuses. So, my friend, what if the solitude you've been avoiding is actually your greatest ally? Wouldn't you like to discover what's waiting for you on the other side of that silence? The wise Sri Ramana Maharshi expressed this with a clarity that resonates deeply in this context. In his work, Who Am I?, he wrote, "Silence is eternal eloquence. In it, the soul finds its home." That phrase, so simple yet powerful, captures the essence of what we are exploring. Solitude is not a void to fear or fill with noise. It is a sacred refuge where you can reconcile with your shadows, where you can find the peace that the outside world does not always offer. When you feel that the universe is pulling you away, leaving you alone with your thoughts, do not interpret it as abandonment. See it as a retreat, an opportunity to pause and ask yourself, what needs to be seen in this moment? What truth am I ready to face? These questions, though simple, are keys that unlock inner doors, doors that lead you to the heart of who you truly are. Tell me how this resonates with you, because I would love to hear your thoughts on this shift. How the idea of solitude as an ally feels in your own journey. Your voice matters in this process, and sharing your reflections might illuminate something new for both you and those reading this. Now, let's take this a step further. Isolation does not just invite you to know yourself. It also awakens your creativity, a force that Jung considered essential to individuation. He saw solitude as a sacred space where the unconscious, that vast inner ocean filled with symbols and dreams, begins to speak with a clarity that daily noise often drowns out. When you are surrounded by people, by tight schedules, by screens that flicker endlessly. It's easy to ignore those inner voices, those ideas that arise from the depths of your being. But when the universe pulls you away, when you find yourself alone in a silence that initially feels uncomfortable, something magical happens. Distractions fade, and your inner world comes to life with an intensity you did not expect. Have you ever had one of those ideas that strikes like lightning in a moment of stillness? Maybe you were walking alone down the street, the sound of your footsteps your only companion, and suddenly a solution to a problem you had been carrying for weeks appeared in your mind. Or perhaps it was a quiet night, gazing at the stars from your window, when you felt an inspiration you couldn't explain. That, my friend, is the unconscious speaking to you, guiding you through symbols, dreams, and archetypes, those universal images Jung described, like the hero seeking his destiny or the shadow guarding your secrets. These are not mere whims of imagination. They are guides on your inner journey, signs showing you where to go when the outside world has left you without answers. Imagine a Saturday afternoon, alone at home. You decide to turn off your phone, set social media aside, and sit in your favorite chair with a cup of tea in your hands. At first, the silence unsettles you. Your mind searches for something to do, a distraction to fill the void. But then, little by little, you relax. Thoughts begin to flow like a calm river. You remember a conversation you had months ago, one that lingered in your mind without you realizing it. Suddenly, an idea takes shape. A project you always wanted to start, a story you've had in your head, a painting that would express your emotions, or the rediscovery of a dream you had abandoned, thinking it was impossible. That isolation was not an accident. It was a gift, allowing you to connect with your creative essence, with that part of you that comes alive when the world goes silent. So, my friend, when was the last time you gave yourself that space? What do you think could emerge if you dared to sit with the silence a little longer? Solitude has another gift as well. It forces you to face your shadows in a way you cannot escape. It is like a mirror that won't let you look away, showing you what you've been hiding. Those fears you keep buried deep down. The fear of not being enough, of failing, of being judged. Those desires you've repressed out of shame or insecurity all rise up in the silence with an intensity that can be overwhelming. But here lies the paradox. Though facing them is uncomfortable, even painful, doing so sets you free. Imagine a day when you feel disconnected, as if the world has turned its back on you. Instead of turning on the TV or seeking a distraction, you choose to sit with that feeling. You find a quiet corner, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, what am I avoiding? What part of me needs to be heard? Perhaps you uncover a sadness you had buried beneath layers of routine, or a passion you silenced out of fear of not being good enough. By giving it a voice, by allowing it to exist without judgment, that shadow loses its hold on you and transforms into a source of strength. Paramahansa Yogananda, in his book Autobiography of a Yogi, captured this idea with a phrase that echoes through this journey. In the stillness of the soul, the universe whispers its secrets. Solitude is not an enemy to fear. It is a silent teacher, guiding you toward answers that the noise of the world conceals. Could it be that what you fear most in silence is exactly what you most need to hear? Think of isolation as a sacred workshop, a place where your deepest ideas, your most authentic dreams, can take shape. It is not about becoming trapped in solitude, but about using it as a bridge to something new, a canvas where your spirit can paint its truth. Ask yourself, what creation, what revelation is waiting to be born in this silence? Because you are not alone in that void. You are accompanied by the immense force of your own being, ready to unfold like wings you never knew you had. Sometimes, isolation deepens into something even more profound, something mystics have called the dark night of the soul, a term coined by St. John of the Cross and later embraced by Jung as a crucial stage in individuation. It is that moment when everything seems to lose meaning, when the structures that once held your life together, a job you loved, a love you thought was eternal, a certainty that once guided you, collapse without warning. Perhaps you found yourself in such a place, waking up each morning with a void you cannot explain, staring out the window as the world keeps spinning while you feel adrift, wondering if you will ever find the light again. That is the dark night, a solitude so deep it feels like an endless abyss, a silence that echoes with the absence of everything you once knew. But here is the truth that Jung and the mystics left us, that abyss is not your grave. It is your chrysalis, a cocoon where a transformation is taking place, even if you cannot see it from within. In that darkness, the universe is stripping away what you no longer need, the masks you wore to please others, the attachments that tied you to a version of yourself you have outgrown, the superficial beliefs that kept you comfortable but not authentic. It is a process of purification, an inner fire burning away the old, the unnecessary, leaving only the essential. Your true self, raw and pure, ready to emerge with a strength you never knew you had. I remember Maria, a friend whose story left a deep mark on me. She was a vibrant person, always surrounded by laughter and plans, until a painful breakup and a forced relocation left her alone in an unfamiliar city. At first, Maria fought against that isolation with desperation, spending nights crying, seeking refuge in endless TV shows, calling friends who could no longer fill the void. But one afternoon, sitting on her balcony with a cup of tea in her hands, she decided to stop resisting. She closed her eyes and asked herself, "What do I need to let go of? What am I avoiding feeling?" In that silence, she faced her fear of abandonment, an old wound she had carried since childhood, and her need to please others to feel worthy. It was a hard process, filled with tears and doubts, but little by little she discovered a strength she never knew she had. She began writing poetry, verses blooming like flowers after the rain, and reconnected with forgotten dreams, traveling alone, learning to paint, living without rushing. That isolation, which had seemed like a curse, became her rebirth, a gateway to a freer, more authentic version of herself. Have you ever had a dark night that, looking back now, you recognize as a gift in disguise? Jung explained that this darkness not only transforms you, it also connects you to something greater, something beyond words. It is not a spirituality made of dogmas or external rules, but one lived in the deepest part of your being. In the dark night, everything you thought you knew, what you wanted, who you were, collapses like a house of cards. But in that emptiness, in that painful silence, a peace emerges that depends on nothing external, a certainty born from having faced the worst and survived. The key to moving through this night is not to fight it, but to accept it as part of the journey. Sit with the pain, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, what is dying in me right now? What is asking to be born? There may not be immediate answers, but simply asking these questions creates space for the universe to guide you, to reveal a wiser, more complete version of yourself. The Dalai Lama, in his book, The Art of Happiness, left us with a reflection that fits perfectly here. Sometimes, not getting what you want is a wonderful stroke of luck. That phrase, so simple yet profound, reminds us that the losses we experience in isolation, the doors that close, the connections that break, are not the end but a detour towards something more true. That dark night, that solitude that seems to take everything from you, is actually a hidden blessing bringing you closer to yourself, preparing you for an awakening you never could have imagined while you were comfortable on the surface. And what if what you see as a defeat is actually the beginning of your greatest victory? Subscribe to keep exploring these ideas with me. There is so much more to discover together on this journey. Now, here's a practical tool so you don't just stay with words. Don't wait for isolation to find you by surprise. Seek it intentionally with what I call conscious silence. Find a quiet place in your home, maybe a cozy corner by the window, a couch where you feel comfortable, or even a peaceful park if the weather allows. Sit comfortably, close your eyes if it helps, and take a few deep breaths, letting the air flow in and out like gentle waves on the shore. You don't need candles or music, just your presence and a bit of willingness. Then, ask yourself this question in a soft voice. What am I feeling in this moment? Don't rush to find answers or try to fix whatever arises. Just observe. You might notice sadness hidden behind a calm facade, confusion from a chaotic day, or even a flicker of hope you hadn't seen before. Whatever it is, let it be there, like a guest who arrived unannounced. Then, take your attention one step further and ask yourself, what am I avoiding? What part of me needs to be heard? Stay with that question for a moment. No rush. Maybe a forgotten memory will surface, an emotion you've been pushing down, or a truth you've been avoiding out of fear of what it might mean. Not long ago, after a particularly difficult day, I sat down to practice this. At first, my mind was restless, jumping between worries and to-do lists. But when I asked myself what I was avoiding, my fear of not being enough became clear, a shadow I had carried for years without realizing it. Facing it wasn't comfortable. I felt a knot in my chest, a resistance to letting it out. But as I accepted it, as I gave it space without judgment, something changed. That fear loosened its grip on me, and in its place, an unexpected clarity arose, a lightness that allowed me to breathe more freely. It wasn't a magical solution, but it was a beginning, a step toward understanding myself better. I invite you to do the same. After a few minutes, 5 or 10, however long feels right, take a notebook and write down what you felt. It doesn't have to be a perfect essay. It can be a single word like fear or calm, a short phrase like I need rest, or even a small drawing if words don't come easily. This act of writing down what emerges is not just a record. It's a way to honor what your inner self is revealing to you, to give it a place in your story. It won't solve everything at once, my friend, but it will open a dialogue with yourself, a bridge between your conscious mind and those deeper parts that isolation brings to the surface. Practice this for 5 minutes a day, or whenever life feels heavier than usual. It doesn't require much time, but its effects build up, like drops filling a glass. With each session, your intuition sharpens, like a compass that starts pointing north with greater clarity. Your sense of purpose, which sometimes gets lost in the noise, begins to take shape, revealing small glimpses of what truly matters to you. It is a retreat you give yourself, a space where you can align with your essence without the pressure of external expectations. Because isolation, in its purest form, is not a punishment to endure. It's a path to authenticity, an invitation to discover who you are when no one else is watching. What would happen if today you chose to listen to the silence instead of filling it with distractions? What truths might you find if you gave yourself that gift? We've walked a deep path together, a journey that has shown us that isolation is not an enemy, but an invitation to meet yourself. Carl Jung taught us that individuation is the art of integrating your shadows, the parts of yourself you've hidden, but that are essential to your wholeness. He showed us how solitude can awaken creativity, ignite ideas that noise suppresses, and how even the dark night of the soul, with all its intensity, is a chrysalis preparing you to be reborn. With the practice of conscious silence, you now have a simple but powerful tool to transform moments of solitude into beacons of light, into steps toward a clearer, more authentic life. I invite you to try a small experiment today. Sit in silence for 5 minutes, listen to what emerges, and write down what you feel. That simple act could be the start of a profound shift, a first step toward understanding the messages your soul has been whispering to you all along. Share below how this resonates with you. Your words might inspire others on this journey. Isolation, in the end, is the place where your soul awakens, where masks fall and your truth is revealed. As Jung wisely said, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens." Take the next step with awareness, with the certainty that the universe does not set you apart to punish you, but to guide you back to yourself. Your journey begins now, and every moment of silence is an opportunity to draw closer to the light that already lives within you. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Your presence makes it all worthwhile.